What's up, YouTube? This is going to be my GVG Shaman deck tech. So basically, a couple of ground rules before we get into this. Today I'm going to be looking at a deck that should be up on the screen right now. And I'm going to be talking about a lot of different cards, and I'm not going to be explaining that much about the cards that are already in the game right now, that aren't in the GVG expansion. They're in just normal game and the Naxxramas cards. I'm going to explain everything I'm talking about in the GVG stuff, but yeah, if you don't know, unfortunately you're going to have to look up certain cards I might mention if you don't know them already. Other than that, basically when I was looking through the card spoiler list, which is here on BlizzPro, you know, obviously this expansion is very focused on a new type of creature, which is the mech. And you can just see the list of new cards here, neutral commons, even though there's a rare in there, lol. You know, rares. You know, basically a lot of mechs, a lot of interesting cards that we'll get to talk about. A couple of interesting new legendaries. A few of them are kind of winners, a couple of them are kind of losers. And yeah, new class cards. You know, people like Trump and Crip have been saying, you know, it's going to change the meta of this whole expansion, which is probably good for the game. But right, so what I'm going to get into is my Shaman tempo deck that I have been building. So first of all, the Clockwork Gnome. I'm just going to talk about kind of the value of these cards and why you would put these in a Shaman deck. Basically, I'd be playing Shaman because it's very good deck for playing a lot of minions and trying to get trades and kind of playing creature synergy on the new mech stuff. But Clockwork Gnome is a 1 for 2/1 with Death Rattle. Add a spare part card in your hand. Now, just before, just in case you don't know, I'm going to scroll all the way down here. Scroll, and look at the spare parts. Now, you'll see the spare parts cost 1 mana. You can't put them in your deck. You can only get them via minions that give you them, and they're not that great. If you just take a look, you know, +1 health, freeze a minion, give a minion taunt. You know, some of them are okay. I think Reversing Switch and Time Rewinder there are actually pretty good. So they're not like extra cards because they're not as valuable as extra cards, but they are free cards, which give you something to do with an extra mana and maybe make that game changing difference. So basically Undertaker, because currently Undertaker is so strong in the early game with all the Death Rattle minions and just keeps getting +1/+1/+1, something you can play on turn 1 as well. Mech Warper is kind of one of the cards that just makes the deck kind of smooth. It makes it work. It makes it valuable to play mechs over other minions that you want to play, and it's 2 for a 2/3. Like, that's a pretty standard stat line, and the card text is quite nice. What you have to remember here is that Harvest Golem, although it's already in the main game, and it's as it appears on the screen here, Harvest Golem is going to become a mech in the expansion. So that card will actually change to become a mech, which just means cheaper Harvest Golems and Death Rattle. 3 for a 3/2 that dies and brings back a 2/1. It's nice. Now, Tinkertown Technician is one of the cards. I actually kind of took this deck idea from someone else, and I changed it a little bit, but they had Tinkertown Technician in it. He's 3 for a 3/3. You know, that's fine. Battlecry, if you control a mech, you get +1/+1, so he becomes a 4/4. So a lot of the time he's going to be a 4/4. And he puts a spare part in your hand. The thing, I think he's really good, but he just sounds really boring on paper. But he's probably quite good. Again, I'm talking about, it's going to be hard to evaluate some of these cards because we're all talking about a meta that we don't know and haven't played in, and we're trying to assess if these new cards are going to be usable or not usable and constructed. You know, in Arena, I think Tinkertown Technician would be okay, but I mean, you're reliant on getting so many mechs. And constructed, I think it has a place as just a solid body on turn 3, which is gives you a spare part. Can't really say too much more on that. Piloted Shredder. This is what people are calling the new eject mechanic. So you'll see on Piloted Shredder and Piloted Sky Golem, basically the keyword piloted, when they die, they'll summon a random minion. In Sky Golem's case, it's 4 cost. In Piloted Shredder's case, it's 2 cost. But I mean, these cards can give you a lot of value if you, if you just look at the stat lines. It's 4 for a 4/3. You're a little weak for 4 mana in terms of stat line. Showing you by comparison is 4 for a 4/5. But you consider in this deck, he pumps your Undertaker. He can cost 3 mana, and because he's a mech, and just the Death Rattle effect giving you a random 2 cost. On average, you're going to get a 2/2 minion at the end. So it's almost just like Harvest Golem, part 2 in my mind. Lotheb, if you know the current metagame, Lotheb needs no introduction. He's 5 for a 5/5 who basically stops your enemy casting spells and helps you lock out a game that you have board control of. Now, here's something I want to talk about, the spoilers in general. If we take a look, you'll see that there aren't really that many taunt minions. If we go up, no taunt, no taunt, no taunt, no taunt, no taunt. If you're playing Druid, you get a taunt mech. But that's really it. And then we'll come up to a little exorcist here. So she's 3 for a 2/3 that gains +1/+1 for each enemy Death Rattle minion. Now, you're probably just going to have to stick to your old Senjin Shield Masters and your Sludge Belchers, but if they make a taunt mech, I would be very happy, just because your Sludge Belcher kind of sticks out as something it doesn't have much synergy with the rest of the deck, when the rest of the deck has a lot of synergy. So that's basically just to cover your taunt bases. Piloted Sky Golem, 6 for a 6/4, which is a little weak for 6 mana, but when you consider you can play him for 5, and when he dies he summons a random 4 cost minion that's on average going to be about a 3/4 or a 4/3 in of itself. That is a very, very value card, in that you're going to get a lot of value for that 6 mana investment. He's not a slouch. Like I was saying, I took the deck idea from someone else who had sort of a Shaman tempo deck using Fire Elementals at a 6 cost, but he didn't have he had a lot of mechs, but he didn't have Piloted Sky Golem. He had Fire Elementals, which is fine. But if we go along to here, let's just want to compare the value. It's 6 for a 6/5 that deals 3 damage when it comes in. But the thing about the Sky Golem is that he's 6 for a 6/4, and he might be 5 for a 6/4. That even if you get rid of it, it's still a 4. It doesn't really die. It comes back as a 4 mana cost minion. So I didn't really. I like having a lot of removal in a deck, but when you're banking so much on creature synergy and your board presence with mechs, I don't really understand anyone who wouldn't want to take Pilot Sky Golem. This is one of my favorite cards in the whole set. Sneed's Old Shredder. 8 for a 5/7, not that good. But Death Rattle, summon a random legendary minion. What? The amount of value you could get back, I was listening to Trump talking about it. I think it would be amazing if you got Sneed's Old Shredder. He died, brings back Kel'Thuzad, who then brings back the original Sneed's Old Shredder, and then you kind of go infinite on legendaries, which is just fantastic. It's really strong. Again, the original deck had Alakir the Windlord in it, which I didn't really understand. I think he was kind of banking on Wind Fury to get a lot of damage in to close out the game. But I'd rather trade with huge bodies and really harsh death rattle effects and just have some fun. Who doesn't want a random legendary minion? I mean, come on. As far as spells go, Earth Shock's there to get rid of taunts and enable trades. Rock Biter weapons are just good for trades. They're effectively a 3-1 weapon on your hero for 1, and you can make previously irrelevant minions trade up in value, which is a lot about what this deck is supposed to do. Flame Tongue Totems, again, just there to buff up other minions and try and make them trade up. And you can even use them in Shaman with your hero power to get two minions from your hero power. Now this, in my opinion, is one, along with Sneasel Treader, is one of the most broken cards in possibly the game as it's about to be. There was people on Twitter saying, oh, this card's not that good because you might not get to use the Wind Fury. I just want to remind people that 2 for a 3/2 is pretty standard in and of itself, with not really that much text. Knife Juggler is probably the best 2 for a 3/2 in my book. You also have Acidic Swampoos who can destroy your opponent's weapon, which is nice, but usually it's just 2 for a 3/2. And I want to compare this to Flame Imp, which is 1 for a 3/2 that deals you 3 damage when it comes in. So what you're getting for your extra mana on Whirling Zap-O-Matic, along with it being a mech, is you're getting just no bad card text, and it doesn't deal you any damage when it comes in, and Wind Fury. If your opponent cannot deal with this, it could just win you the game. I cannot see how that would be bad. Saying that it's a bad card because you might not get to use the Wind Fury if they have a taunt minion is like saying, oh well, it's a bad card because it might die like all the other 3/2s. It's like, or it's a bad card because it might die. Yeah. So if people think it's a bad card, I think you need your head scanned. I would go to a hospital pretty quickly. Hex is standard Shaman removal. 1 Lightning Storm is there at the moment. That might go up to 2, and I'm not particularly sure about the Doomhammer. It was in the original deck, and it seems like a good idea, but there are plenty of other things that I could put in here which might be more useful. Again, it's really hard to tweak the deck. Not really even seeing the full spoiler or having played any games of it. But yeah, that's basically my Shaman deck tech as it stands. I might just quickly talk about other cards I could put in here. There's so many death rattle effects that will be useful in this deck that, especially on Sneasel Treader and Pilot Skygolem, that I might consider putting 1 Reincarnate in there, because if a minion goes down to like 1 or 2 health, you can play Reincarnate, get its death rattle effect, and have it back to full health. In this deck, that would be quite good. I'm kind of toying with putting a little bit more removal in here. I don't know about the Doomhammer, as I say. Some of the mana costs are quite high. Like Lotheb and Sludge Belcher will always be 5 costs. They can't be brought down. And yeah, I think there is also the new card in Goblin vs. Gnomes for Shaman, which is the Dunmall Shaman. There we go. 5/4 Wind Fury for 4, Overload 1. It has a 50% chance to attack the wrong enemy. When you think about it, it's almost a 10-4-4-4, which is really good, but in this deck it's not a mech. That's what really sells it. But it is a big body, and I think a lot of people kind of don't like the fact it might hit random things. But it's a big body for cheap. I think a lot of people underrate what that's going to do to a board. But yeah, basically in general, I'm just really excited to see the set, and I don't even mind if this deck wouldn't be top tier. It just seems fun. There's a couple of mechs in here which I don't think are that useful. The one that summons Voltron. Dr. Boom is hilarious. What I'm going to do is when the set comes out, I'm going to buy 40 packs, and I'm going to put the video of me opening 40 packs on the channel, and I really hope to get some of these cards. Notable mentions that didn't make it into the deck that I will have to use at some point is Micro Machine. 2 for a 1/2 mech. At the start of each turn, gain 1 attack. When I originally read that, I thought it was the start of your turn. So I'm like, okay, you play it, it pass the turn, it's a 1/2 on your opponent's turn, it's probably going to die, and then it becomes a 2/2 on your turn. No. When you play it and pass, it's a 2/2 at the start of your opponent's turn. If he passes it back to you and it's not dead, it's a 3/2. If he still doesn't kill it and you have some way of covering it up, or even playing it and giving it stealth using a spare part, it could very quickly become a 5/2, a 7/2, a 9/2 that is sitting there, and that will destroy you if that is allowed to go off. A lot of the time, I think it's going to end up working out as about a 3/2 for 2, which is, as I said, very standard, and the reason that I'm taking Whirling Zap-O-Matic, and that Whirling Zap-O-Matic is not a bad card. Spider Tank's also very good. 3 for a 3/4 mech. You know, that seems boring, but if you're playing a straight up mech minion deck, you know, and you don't have any particular mechanics you want to trade off of, then Spider Tank's really good. It's a kind of like a Tinkertown Technician. It sounds really boring, but it's probably really good, and it's probably fun to play with in the actual game. That's good. So yeah, a lot of notable mentions. Blingatron. There's a lot of fun early game mechs that I didn't get a chance to put in here. Cogmaster is kind of fun, but to be honest, a lot of the time he's going to work out to be worse than Clockwork Gnome, because he doesn't buff an Undertaker, he doesn't give you a spare part, and he just doesn't really do anything for your deck. He's an early game creature that requires you to have a great starting hand. Explosive Sheep is really awesome. I know a lot of hunters want to put this in their deck and play some controlling stuff, and even mages can play it and then use their hero power to kill their own Explosive Sheep and deal 2 damage to the whole board. And Annoyatron is funny, but he kind of suffers a little bit from the same things as kind of Goldshire Footman, in that he's a taunt minion that will become completely irrelevant later on in the game, just because of the fact that he's weak. So yeah, stay tuned, because when GBG comes out, I'm going to be laddering with this deck, and like I said, opening 40 packs, and we'll see where we get with it. Let me know in the comments what you think, and try and get some discussion going. But yeah, other than that, see you guys later.